welcome to, we'll call this Questions with Clifford. I am a licensed mental health counselor here in the state of Florida, and I'm going to be posting some common questions and about a lot of different things. Today, I wanted to talk about what is CBT. CBT stands for Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, and I don't think I'm going to make you all watch me write that whole thing up there, but cognitive behavioral therapy seeks to answer one of the basic questions from psychology, which all of psychology tries to answer this one thing, which is why. Why do people do what they do? Why do people think the way they do? Why do they act in the way that they do? Cognitive behavioral therapy is one of many theories that tries to explain why people do what they do. Cognitive behavioral therapy is based on overall a fairly simple concept, and I'm going to go through that concept, and this isn't meant to be exhaustive. This is not meant to go into a textbook level piece, but to answer the core of it, and then further how you can use it and why it's used so much in therapy. So first, we're going to picture an iceberg, and so here's our iceberg, and as we know, most of an iceberg is below the water, so here's our water line. And cognitive behavioral therapy looks at the answer to why and says there are three parts to it. There's A, B, C. A stands for, I'm going to come to this side, your automatic thoughts. And those are those simple narration points. Oh, I did good today, or I was stupid, or I can't believe I did that, or everybody's going to think I'm dumb, or I'm not good enough. It's that constant inner narrator. And a good way to determine if your inner narrator, if your inner voice, if your view of yourself is healthy or not, is to ask yourself this simple question. If my best friend, my loved one, my partner talked to me the way that I talk to myself, would I still want to be friends with them? If the answer to that is no, then chances are you have an unhealthy inner narrative, dialogue, way of viewing yourself. So again, cognitive behavioral therapy says it's split into three parts. Automatic thoughts, that's the part that's above the waterline. This is the part that's visible, that we can kind of tune in and say, hey, I'm aware of that. The second layer down stands for beliefs and or rules about myself. And so positive, healthy rules or beliefs could be, I can do what I set out to accomplish. I am capable of achieving this. I can have a friendship. I can fall in love with somebody. Unhealthy rules or beliefs are things like, I'll never really be successful. Anything I try my hardest at, I will fail. I'll never really fall in love. I'll never really find somebody who cares about me. I'll never be able to be genuine or real. And these beliefs, they begin to affect our automatic thoughts, and they begin to affect what we do. So in my own work as a therapist, I've seen people who will half-heartedly try, whether it's stopping drinking or using drugs or changing a relationship. They'll give it a half effort, but they'll never fully commit, because even if they're not aware of it, their underlying belief or rule about themselves is that they're not going to be able to be successful. So they'll try enough to make themselves kind of feel better, but they won't actually 100% engage. And often this belief or rule is a little bit more in the back of our mind, or another word would be our subconscious. We tend to be unaware of it, and we would say, if asked, oh yeah, I tried, or I did that, or I think I could be successful, but we're unaware of how this belief or cognition will limit us. And you can see that if you think of different examples. If I really think that I'm not going to do that well on a test, I'll study enough so that I don't get in trouble, but I'm not going to really try, because what's the point of trying if I'm going to fail? Now, deep down, and it's the biggest part of this pyramid, obviously, is our core beliefs, our core values, our core understanding of ourselves. And these core beliefs, values, they can be healthy core beliefs. I am lovable, I am intelligent, I am capable of doing things, finding love, I am good. These core beliefs can be negative. I'm not good enough, I'm incapable, I'm unlovable. And that is the very simple view of what cognitive behavioral therapy is. It says it's composed of our automatic thoughts, which are easy to kind of be aware of, our beliefs or rules, and those are a little trickier, and then these core values. So the next question then becomes, well, now that I know this, oh, and this is not going to work real well. Now that I know this, where do my core values or beliefs come from? So I'm going to leave that up there. And we're going to focus on this. Our core values or beliefs, those are going to come from how we grew up, how our parents treated us, how our caregivers treated us, and they also come from significant life events. Now, what do I mean by that? If you were raised in a loving, caring home that was stable and it was healthy, then generally, hopefully, you got the value that you were loved, you were cared for, and you were capable and possible. And, you know, your parents showed up at your sports games or your recitals or your competitions, and they said, hey, we're proud of you, we love you, you're awesome, you're capable. And so the core value I begin to learn is, hey, I'm capable of doing this. I am able to do good things. And then there's also the other piece, and psychology, again, the question of why do people do what they do? Psychology says, hey, let's take and let's investigate that. And psychology says some of it's nature. In other words, what you're inherited, what you're born with. And those are different things like, you know, whether your earlobes are attached or unattached, the color of your hair or what you have left of your hair, the color of your eyes, that's heredity. But then there's nurture. That's the environment you grew up in. So if you grow up in an environment where food is scarce, you may not develop to your full height. Say you grow up and you have a genetic predisposition to more brittle or thinner bones. If you never play a heavy contact sport, football, hockey, rugby, any number of those, you may never find out that your bones are a little more susceptible to breaking because you're not exposed to that on the nurture side. Well, personality, whether I'm anxious or I'm depressed or I'm upbeat or I'm happy, that also is heritable. It can be inherited. So if mom and dad are generally upbeat, positive, hey, the sky is blue and the cup is always half full, your genetic tendency is going to gear most likely in that direction. If mom or dad are anxious or worried or grow up stressed, even if you have a stable home environment, you may be a little bit more predisposed to that. So we come back to cognitive behavioral therapy. The core values, those are from the nurture side. Those come from how we're talked to as children, what kind of home we grew up in. Now the good news is those core values can be changed with conscious effort and work, and that's how we'll kind of end this. But those core values come from, we're going to put here, childhood, and a lot of that's going to be parenting, authority figures, caregivers, but they also come from, and I'll call it major life events. In my work as a therapist, I have worked with people who have unexpectedly lost a job. They've lost a career field even. And that can be very deeply undoing to suddenly have everything you've worked for pulled away. And that can lead to a sense of I'm a failure. And that can then change that core value, because while core values can be changed for good, negative experiences mean core values can be changed for worse as well. So you lose a really important relationship. You lose a job, you lose a family member, you go through a divorce, a loss, a breakup. And one of the funny things, that question why, all the psychology seeks to answer why. As human beings, we do it every day. Why did this thing happen to me? Why did I experience this loss? Why did this happen? And the funny thing is I'm going to digress for a moment here. We teach children from an early age that when good things happen, or you do good, good things happen. And when you do bad, bad things happen. One of the ways we do this is you take your child, or you remember going to pre-K or preschool or kindergarten, and if you did really well, generally there was some kind of system, a star chart, a sticker chart, a color system, and if you came home and you did really good, you were on the good star, sticker, color, whatever it was, and you would get a prize from the prize box. And I have talked to hundreds of people, and they'll remember that, or they'll think, oh, I saw my child with that. And what we're doing is we're teaching children to be good citizens. If you do good things happen. And that's a good system. It works. It creates society. However, when we go through unprecedented life events, loss, hurt, pain, that system still kicks in. It says, well, if I do good things and good things happen, and if I do bad things and bad things happen, this bad thing happened, what did I do bad to cause this? And we'll get into that in another series on trauma. But our core values are shaped by childhood, how we grew up, and by major life events, good and negative. Now, why is cognitive behavioral therapy so recommended, used, talked about, because in all the theories out there, and I'll talk about others over the course of this series, cognitive behavioral therapy is one of the most researched and studied. It's effective with depression, anxiety, countless other disorders or mental health issues, because it targets how I think about myself, how I view myself, whether I think I'm capable. So the simple place to start is cognitive behavioral therapy teaches you to become aware of that inner monologue, dialogue, the way we think about ourselves, to begin to consciously change those automatic thoughts and reframe them, to become aware of those beliefs or rules we have about ourselves that limit us, and then to slowly work on ways to rebuild, if it's negative, that negative core value. That's where working with a therapist long term is important. That's where things like journaling, becoming aware of my self-talk, things like doing a gratitude list every day, focusing intentionally on the things that are good in my life and around me, becomes really helpful, because it begins to change this top section, and then we work slowly towards the back, and then we get into things like trauma therapy if your childhood was negative, and we do that. Now, I hope this was helpful. Would love feedbacks, comments, and I wish you well, and thank you for tuning in.